such, being a minor, we were devout Catholics. We went to Catholic school, we went to masses, I served as an altar server. In my 8th grade, well, being Catholic, you go through what's called different sacraments. And so you have Holy Communion, Independence, Confirmation. It's 7 sacraments. And all the way up to death is considered a sacrament. You have marriage, blah, blah, blah. And so I was in the same school from pre-K all the way through to 8th grade. So that was my first experience of God. Growing up being Catholic, it was part of the natural fabric of our lives. We went to church every week, we participated, and we were expected to do well in church and in school. In the 8th grade, I was faced with one of my first and many obstacles or trials where I was slated to be the valedictorian of my 8th grade graduating class. Not only because I was very smart, but because I was also very active. And so some people did not want me to be valedictorian. And there was another mother, her name was Miss Helmany, and she had her children at the same school. And she came to me and she says, she took me to the church, which was right next door to the school, and she said, get on your knees in front of one of the statues. I think it was Mary, I don't remember. But she said to get on your knees. She said, if you know you've done the work, she said, if you know you deserve this, you pray to your God and let God open that door. Needless to say, the graduation was supposed to be on June 12th, which was my birthday, and on June 9th, we experienced a fire at our house that burned everything down. We had nothing. However, the same day I found out that I was indeed valedictorian. And so, even though there was that huge trial that we lost everything, my parents put clothes on that they got from the Salvation Army. My uniform garment that I had, my graduation gown, was charred. That was the only thing we managed to salvage because I happened to have it and ran out with it. But that was my first experience on the power of prayer. Being a Catholic, through somebody who was a devout Catholic, she taught me the power of prayer. Fast forward to maybe the next year or so, after the fire, after we lost everything, my parents both converted and accepted Christ as their personal Savior. Because I was young, once again, they made me start going to church with them at a Church of God Sunday. And so in that, they made me join the choir. I was very resistant. I didn't understand. It was weird because I grew up Catholic and we had a priest as the father. We went to this church that my grandmother went to because my grandmother had been saved first. And it was a pastor and he was married and he had kids. And I didn't understand that because growing up Catholic, the priests were not married and didn't have children. So now I come from going to church 45 minutes at best. I considered dressing up for church wearing new Air Force Ones with jeans, and that was that. We didn't get dialed up, we went, and that was it. And then now it was a new environment where everyone, was like how we look now, dressed to the nines, have, they hats on, in church, it's a lot of singing, music, the pastor's preaching, and it took me a while to even understand how is he married with kids. But in that, because my parents made me go, I ended up being not only a part of the choir, but I ended up being the vice president of the youth ministry. And then we formed a choir, the Guiding Voices, and then we used to just do things at the church, and I found an even deeper level of love for God. I call my salvation song Calling My Name. And the church that I was a part of, it was a French-speaking church. So everything we did, we had to do it in French and in English. I remember being on the choir stand and we were singing Calling My Name, and there was a part in the song, you're calling my name to lead me to your arms, to be safe from fear and harm. And they would cut the music and we would do a cappella. Then we would do it in English and in French. And I remember this emotion that came over me, and that was my first time experiencing God in such a real and tangible way. In the pulpit while we were singing, I just started crying. And because I'm relatively conservative, I was trying to hide the fact that I was crying and I was having this emotional experience or encounter with God. And so that was my next big experience with God. So being Catholic, ironically enough, was where I learned the power of prayer and how God does hear us. And when the scripture is true that the effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous does availeth much, even when it's unbeknownst to you, because I didn't even know that scripture at that time. And then now with calling my name at the Church of God Sunday, having that personal relationship and God touching you in a way that can bring you to tears, and that's the only way you can kind of express that deep communion with God. Fast forward about 2-3 years, I felt in my spirit the call of God in my life. And when I tried to express it to different people at the church, they kind of were like, well, what do you mean? And it wasn't necessarily really looked upon with a woman being a minister and or having a calling from God. And I remember that crushed me because that was my home. That's where I had this encounter with God. That's where we grew. But in my heart, I knew I had to start moving on. And so I found myself in a wilderness where I started to experience other churches and just go other places to just see where I would be fed. And I ended up being non-denominational. And in that, I learned my faith in God increased, in that I realized that up until then, I had confined God to what I thought religion should be. And so spent a few years serving. Once again, if I put my heart or my mind to something, I'm going to do it and do it wholeheartedly. So I'm one of those that I'm ready to jump in at the drop of a dime. So I was able to enhance my skills and just understanding how to be a servant in the church. So then, fast forward one more year, I ended up going away to school. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia. But I knew that even though I was going away to school, I wanted to maintain my relationship with God, that was really important to me. And I didn't want to, number one, I was petrified of my parents. And number two, I didn't want to lose that sweet spot that I felt that I had with Christ. So the moment I moved to Philadelphia as a freshman, every weekend I made sure I visited churches because I wanted to make sure I had at least that foundation. I'm the youngest of 4 girls, and all of my sisters went to school in New York. So me being the only one to go on the way, it was all new. I didn't have somebody to help me through it or navigate through it out of state, blah, blah, blah. I ended up going to a Baptist church, not that I was looking to be Baptist, but because that's what was along the bus route of my school on down Broad Street. But that was the first church I went to. And the pastor used to always say, if we do God's word and we give our tithes and our offering, we don't have to do fish fries, we don't have to do other stuff to raise money. Because if we are an Acts 2 church, we bring all our resources to the church, and that should be enough not only to take care of the matters of the church, but to be able to help other people. And so there was a huge emphasis on being obedient to God's word, particularly in bringing and offering our gifts, not only financially, but all that we had. And that invigorated me. I'm like, wow, this is really Christ in culture. This is what we're supposed to do. We should not have lack, but if all of us have one mind to do the work, there's not only enough for God's storehouse, but enough to go out into the world. And so my faith deepened in that Baptist church, and I got so much training to the point where they even had, I started doing new members classes and baptisms and all of this stuff that I wasn't even looking to do. But hey. And so I used to have weekly, the leadership used to have weekly meetings with the pastor, and he looked at me, and I said something. I don't remember what I said, but he was like, you're gonna marry the pastor. And I was just kind of like, whatever, dude, okay. Never thinking that would even happen. That wasn't even on my agenda at all. And so, being Baptist, I learned to respect money as God has ordained for us to respect money, to understand that money is a weak God, and to understand that money is available, and we don't have to stress by the lack thereof, nor should our perception of not having enough stop us from doing what God has told us to do. In that, just different things happened, and I learned that God's work done God's way never lacks God's supply.
Amen.
And so I never used the lack of money to stop me from doing what I know God told me to do.
Amen.
I went to hair school. My parents were not for it. My dad told me, he said, I didn't send you to Temple to go to hair school. I sent you to college to go to college to get your degree. But I still felt God called me to do that because I wanted to do it in excellence. And I feel like anything you do in excellence. Not only did I do my undergraduate, but I ended up going to hair school and did them concurrently. Graduated with 3.9 and was top of my class, the top 2 in the And I'm not saying to God, but just saying that when you are obedient to God, there's no secret to what you can do. And even, I'm not going to belabor the moment, but even in that testimony on how God worked it out for me to be able to juggle both and graduate, having paid hair school in full on my own, working as a shampoo girl, because my parents weren't going to pay for it. Fast forward to me moving back to New York. God gave me that. What I started to see was that there was a lot of young people, myself and younger at the time, who understood an understanding of God, but not really capturing the essence of a true relationship with God, this daily faith walk. And so I know I wanted to learn more about that. I wanted to have more training biblically. And I wanted to do it with young people. I have a heart for young people, particularly young girls. We focus on the outward aesthetic, and even now, girls are laid, face laid, hair, bundles, edges, whatever. It's all done, but they're hollow. And don't really understand their true value, and that your true beauty emanates from the inside out. And so, because I knew I wanted to learn biblically how to be able to take the things of God, but present it in a way where it's palpable and kids can understand it. So once again, I'm very particular about certain things, and so that's why I ended up going to seminary. While I was doing research for seminary, I wasn't looking to be a pastor or a minister, as it were. My calling wasn't necessarily to be in the pulpit. I just wanted to be able to take God's word and understand it and exegete it to bring it in a way to present to young people that made sense and that was relevant. And so that's when I did those 2 programs, and somebody told me that there was a dual program with Columbia University with social work. It never occurred to me that social work was hand in hand with ministry. It so is. And so, once again, I was like, I can't afford Columbia University. I can't afford doing Union Seminary. I went in the day after the deadline for financial aid. And I was like, all right, you know what? It's probably not gonna happen. I still went, did the tour, spoke to everybody, went to the office. I said, well, if someone doesn't come or what have you, don't forget Gerdie, for what, I was gonna say for whatever reason, but not for whatever reason, because God has a plan. The director of financial aid called me the very next day and said, I found some money for you.
Amen.
You need to be here.
Amen.
Opened that door, started that program. Another lesson, faith, in that even when you're not sure, even when you think there's not a chance, even when you think, all right, you know what, the facts are there. The window was closed, you can't go through it, there's no more money. God still makes a way out of no way. And so, I say all of that to say, for several years, I used to be ashamed of the fact that I wasn't raised in one church and grew up in a church. I always felt like I was a mutt. I was Catholic, I was Baptist, I was congregational. Now I'm getting married in the Church of God Seventh Day. But God said, no. Those scars, what you're looking at as scars, are the building blocks that let you see I'm above and beyond. That I still use you, that you are enough. And so, for everyone here, even in, where you are now, if you're unsure sure that God knows and sees and understands, rest assured, take it from me, who has been around, that God is concerned, that God does care, that God listens, and God has a purpose for all of your life. And our faith, my faith is still evolving. I'm learning to be in a sweet spot with Jesus. I was sharing with my sisters that procrastination in my life right now is a sin. And obedience, whether I want to or not, whether I think I'm going to offend somebody or not trying to offend, but obedience and swift obedience is what God requires of us. And if you have that notion or that thought to do something, do it. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. As Charles Stanley always says, obey God and leave the consequences to God.
Amen.